The gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Sensenbrenner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. In today's hearings, I expect a slew of experts to tell us what we already know. If we mandate that electric companies use wind energy, it will drive private investment into the wind sector. Of course it will. What investor wouldn't want a guaranteed market? If we mandate that everyone drives cars with square tires, we'll drive investment there too, but that doesn't mean that we should. Choosing winners and losers doesn't work. Europe provided as much with regard to clean energy investment. In Europe, government subsidies drove investment toward renewable energy sources. That investment and all associated jobs dried up as soon as the subsidies lapsed. Just a few years ago, President Obama held Spain as the model for encouraging investment in solar energy. Today, Spanish unemployment is over 20%. Is that really the model we want to follow? Europe proved that jobs associated with clean energy investment will last only as long as the government pays for them. Democrats couldn't get cap and tax through Congress, so now they're trying to circumvent voters and accomplish the same thing through the EPA. Their argument that if we don't force investors to spend their money here, they'll spend it abroad is wrong. The reality is that the technologies the Democrats want to mandate will drive the cost of our energy up, which will drive more manufacturing jobs overseas. Given the choice between one, forcing investment toward today's political darlings, or two, supporting sustainable market-tested businesses, I'm going to choose the latter every time. During the coming months, the American economy will be at the mercy of several environmental regulations from the Obama administration. These regulations will not generate jobs. They will generate significant costs for the businesses that create jobs. EPA's endangerment finding, which would allow the EPA to regulate greenhouse gas emissions, is the most widely followed and probably the most onerous example. Unless Congress stops it, these regulations will put EPA in charge of the U.S. economy. EPA would target more than 1.3 million commercial sources, which the EPA defines to include office buildings, small businesses, schools, churches, prisons, and similar structures. EPA estimates that an endangerment finding that doesn't include a legally suspect tailoring rule would cost small entities more than $55 billion. The Heritage Foundation says that it would lead to $7 trillion, with a T, in lost economic activity between 2010 and 2029, and would kill almost 3 million manufacturing jobs by 2029. One administration official told the Wall Street Journal that under the endangerment finding, EPA was going to have to regulate in a command and control way, which will probably generate even more uncertainty. And this is not the only economic threat posed by the Obama administration. The President is proposing tax increases on energy as a part of his latest $50 billion stimulus plan. One expert estimates that these new energy taxes would cost over 154,000 jobs by the end of 2011, more than $341 billion in lost economic output, and more than $68 billion in lost wages nationwide. EPA has termed another set of onerous regulations Boiler MACT. These regulations will set emission standards for hazardous air pollutants. The Council of Industrial Boiler Owners released a study last week that showed exactly how much damage the Boiler MACT regulations will inflict upon the economy. For every $1 billion spent on upgrade and compliance costs, up to 16,000 jobs and $1.2 billion in U.S. GDP will be threatened. With regulations like these, the entire American economy is threatened. With unemployment hovering around 10%, America does not need more job-killing regulations. America needs Congress to focus on creating jobs and economic growth. In our economic system, it is private investors who take risks. Financial success is the potential reward. If investors believe that renewable energy sources are the future, then I encourage them to invest in these markets. It is not, however, in America's interest to mitigate investors' risks by guaranteeing them a market. It makes sense that a Democratic Congress that responded to our economic collapse by socializing losses will now seek to shift the risks of investing from private businesses to the government. In today's hearing, the majority is effectively arguing that government should bet on winners and losers so that investors do not have to. The model is backwards and reflects a fundamental disagreement on American capitalism. While I will gladly work with Democrats to lower taxes and other disincentives for investment, I cannot support a model that I believe is at odds with how our economy works. I thank the chairman and yield back the balance of my time.
We thank the gentleman.